Zelig, a film he did in 1983. So the IMDb plot summary, a quote unquote documentary about a man who can look and act like whoever he's around. This is directed and written by Woody Allen, starring Woody Allen and Mia Farrow. So this is a film that I saw for the first time in film school. So I was in college. So
Mm.
maybe longtime listeners of the show remember that I went to USC as an undergrad. And I don't remember actually which class this was, but at the time I already had developed my distaste for Woody Allen films. So this is the one that I was like, oh great, we're watching a Woody Allen film tonight. And this movie just surprised me on how much I liked it and what this movie was. So, as I was hinting at in the description, it's a mockumentary. So this is about a person
Mhm.
who did not exist in the 20s. And it's not a mockumentary in a sense of Spinal Tap or Waiting for Guffman or Drop Dead Gorgeous, which we covered recently, where there's a camera crew following around a person who still exists. This is a mockumentary of a talking heads mockumentary. So people, that have knew the main character Zelig, who Woody Allen played, as old women now because they knew him in the 20s when he first came up, and you're talking to them. So it's like a talking head mockumentary. And Woody Allen plays the main character, and it's just very interesting from a how the film was constructed, what they do to create this world, incredible world building of this. Again, it's like an alternate 1920s where there's this character who, if you put him in a room with heavier people, he all of a sudden grows a stomach, or you put him in a room with a certain ethnicity, and all of a sudden he'll turn into that ethnicity. He actually is a chameleon, and they have like fake songs that they wrote at the time, and a whole fake movie that they shoot as if it, was made in the 30s. And the world building is so incredible, and also the effects of how they were able to put Woody Allen into these as this character into these newsreels, or shoot as if it was an old newsreel. I mean, it's like Forrest Gump before Forrest Gump, and it actually looks better than what they did in
Yep.
Forrest Gump in terms of inserting him into the past. So I find it very funny. Again, I love the mockumentary format, but in this viewing especially, I really thought that there is a lot more going on here, where this character I think is sort of Woody Allen wrestling with his own identity and himself. And we'll get into that, as we talk about the film. But had you seen this movie before? What are your thoughts on Zelig? I know it's a hard film to get a hold of. It's not really available anywhere to stream right
Yeah.
now.
Thank you for making it available so I could watch it, but I had not seen it. Again, this goes in that early camp of movies, and I was blown away by, like you said, the world building. And I wanted to Google several times that did this person really exist? Like that's how convincing the movie is, even though I know this is not real because it can't be, it makes no sense. But this is how amazing the world building is, and what they did technically, but also with the storytelling, because all these elements of the talking heads, but then showing you the actual footage, the coverage, also the voiceover, it all kind of works really well. And you never leave the documentary format,
Hmm.
which I think the commitment there is pretty strong. Because because it's Woody Allen and I know, I was like, oh, are they going to break that conceit and, come out at someone and say, oh, haha, this was all fake? No, like it stays in this mold. But you're right, like it has a lot of depth to it. You can take it for what, and this is we talk about this on the podcast all the time, which is that great movies are movies that you can just enjoy for what they are, or you can enjoy for their technical abilities. But if you really want to engage with them and what they're trying to say, there's a lot here. To me, like the first thing of just he becomes the people that he's around, and the reason he does that, or the reason that happens to him, is because he wants to be liked.
Hmm.
There's something so human about that, again, done in like a very exaggerated way, but also so sad and lonely about that, which I think we all have that in some way or the other, and we all kind of do it. You put me in some, like, I don't know, a room of people where everybody's like dressed up and being all fancy. I start to behave that way a little bit,
Hmm.
and you do that consciously or unconsciously. So it's such a human thing. But then there's also a lot of great, I guess, I don't know, digs slash just highlighting the power that media plays in,
Oh yeah.
journalism plays. Like this person is kind of, people are eyeing him because he's unique and, vicariously living through him and touting him as a hero, and then it all goes to shit. And then he does something which is slightly more heroic. I won't spoil it. And then the same people are back on,
Right.
which happens a lot in life.
Right.
And like you said, I think there's a lot of Woody and his life, and this is still younger Woody's, but it's funny to me that this movie, in terms of how the public perceives him, kind of spans his entire life in a way. He's always been this controversial character, who's up and down in the public perception, and now just down, down, down.
Right. Right.
So it's sort of interesting to see that. So I don't know. I was wowed by it. I laughed, but I also kind of felt a little sad about sort of who this person was, and then through him about Woody as well. I mean, there's like an empathy that this movie ends up creating for someone like this character.
Rewatching it because I hadn't seen it actually since film school because it is very hard to find. It
Hmm.
almost did feel like one of his more personal films because it really is. He's not playing himself. He's playing this character Zelig, right, who has this condition. But I do think there's a lot to read into this about just. I mean, he wasn't an immigrant, but growing up in a very strongly like Jewish background, I know that was a big how much do you assimilate into the rest of the culture you kind of want to,
Hmm.
but then you want to keep your own identity. And a lot of wrestling with that, it seems to be something actually he wrestles with a lot of his movies. I think that's why he has
Hmm.
these pseudo intellectuals that like he kind of wants to be part of that community, but then he mocks them because he's
Yeah.
jealous that he can't be because he's not authentically from there. And this movie kind of wrestles with all of that. And then I just loved the ending message of the movie where it's like this character Zelig becomes the most happiest when he finds his real self and can
Right.
not have to fit in anymore, which is, like you said, that's a human emotion. Everyone wants to be liked. They want to fit in. You don't want to be the one who stands out. But Zelig, over the course of the film and his life, because it's this fake documentary, once he realizes to love himself and just be okay with that, then he's really happy, and the film has a happy ending because of it. So I think that is a great message too, and potentially something also that Woody, I'm sure, was wrestling with as he was coming up as a young comedian and then seeing all this success. Like, how much do you want to just not be who you are, but to give the people what they want so you can get your success
Hmm.
and your fame? I think this
This
movie
art
has
thing, yeah,
a
art
lot
versus
going on.
commerce, art versus identity also
Hmm.
going on. Yeah.
Yeah, especially as someone who does put himself in all, his voice is very clear in all of his movies. So he's very exposed, I think, as an artist. So that
Mhm.
a film like this means more when an artist who is putting it, so obviously putting who he is himself in all of his movies, or at least the surrogate character we talked about, playing around with identity, I think it makes it even more fascinating. So I still think this movie really holds up. Again, I appreciate a lot of the craft in it, but I also think the messages are great and very funny. Like there's a lot of really funny lines, and his humor comes across, that more zany humor that I like him comes across in this a lot. So I'm glad you were able to enjoy it. And it is something that is hard to find. If you dig around the internet, you can find some copies floating around there. I don't know why this isn't as readily available as some of his other films, but it's one I still think is his masterwork, and what I like about him is encapsulated in this film.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad to have watched it, and I would agree. It is a masterpiece for sure. And it still has all the themes that he's always played with, but just done
Hmm.
in a totally different format. And like you said, like a lot more personal, I guess. And I guess the other thing on the happy ending side is that yes, it's about liking yourself, but also meeting somebody who sees you for who you are. There's a
Hmm.
lovely kind of love kind of message in this as well. Like when this person, and it's funny because he's Jewish and that's so kind of associated with Woody Allen, he ends up joining the Nazi party at some
Yeah,
point because
that bit is really
that's what
funny.
happens, that you've gone through all of this, and in this quest to find yourself and being liked, you've gone all the way to the opposite side.
Right.
And it's this great scene that he sees Mia Farrow's character and suddenly starts to look like himself and come out. It's such a, I mean, it's zany and hilarious, but also so touching at the
Hmm.
same time that, oh, this is the person that sees me for who I am. And then suddenly you're like, oh my gosh, where am I?
Right.
So, and the things he says to his kid, and the proclamations he makes on, for the journalists and interviews, like just be yourself and such. And it's pretty sincere actually,
Hmm.
which is not something I expect from Woody, because he's always, like you said, mocking himself and undercutting things and also hyping himself. Like he's not often sincere. You're supposed to look for the sincerity and the truth in between. Here he says it as is, which is kind of amazing, actually.
Yeah, and I wonder if it has to do with a lot of the fact that there's a lot going on in this movie. Like there's a world he built, there's fake this, fake that. So there's enough distraction so that he can be more
Hmm.
exposed on that sincerity.
Mm,
Instead of using his humor to put up those walls, it's like the structure of the film and the form of the film that he's choosing to use. But I agree, yeah, there is a message of love, sort of someone loves him finally so that he can then
yeah.
love himself is a great message too that I just yeah, I still like this film. Definitely recommend folks try to find it. Hi there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I review a new release and then discuss 6 other movies made by that film's actor or director and how they shaped us. Subscribe right now or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.